for attending today. So this webinar is about CBD infused products. And so as you all know, CBD is a new product that has been available for sale in grocery stores, convenience stores, and whatnot. However, there has been some confusion about what is allowed and what is not, because we have state law and then we have federal law. And we have 3 different agencies here today that will be telling us and kind of helping us about excuse me, about whether certain CBD products are legal or not and what the current law is around CBD products. So how I envision this going today is that each agency kind of says whatever they need to say, and then we will answer questions at the end if there are any. With the agencies, how I want this to happen is just let's have Department of Health go first and then just introduce yourself and then go on from there. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Shelley Rowden. I'm the Medical Marijuana Program Manager here at the Department of Health, and we're housed in the Health Systems Quality Assurance Division.
And good morning, this is Joe Graham, and I manage our Department of Health Food Safety Program for the state. And we specialize in retail food safety, so food sales made at restaurants, grocery stores, and mobile food units, and those types of establishments. And we primarily work with the local health departments who do the direct regulatory enforcement of our food rule in the state. So that's my role. We've answered a lot of questions about CBD, so we're happy to answer questions specifically about retail food. That's where my jurisdiction lies. Will be in the food part of it, not in anything like lotions or creams.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Zube. I'm with the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board. I'm the commander over the marijuana retail and non-retail unit. And as far as CBD plays with us is that we do additives to food that is sold in our regulatory stores, but there's pesticide testing and stuff that goes along with that. And we also allow sale of CBD in our retail stores.
This is Karen LaCourse. I'm with the Food Safety Program, Washington State Department of Agriculture. Just checking that my phone is not on mute. We are responsible, our agency is responsible for reviewing the marijuana-infused edible applications that come to our office in conjunction with what the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board have approved for us to move forward on inspections and licensing of edible facilities, including the review of the ingredient labeling that goes on the packages of edibles.
Great, thank you. So could each of you maybe start out with what is the current status of CBD in your arenas?
This is Joe in DOH Retail Food Safety. I can go ahead and start because we have a lot of questions that happen. And in Washington State, when we look at any food additive, and we look at CBD as a food additive, that's how we look at it here from the Retail Food Safety Program and the State Department of Health. We always look into whether it is federally approved as an ingredient, and that the technical term is generally recognized as safe, and that is done by the FDA. And so whether it be, we get questions about, can I add activated charcoal to frosting? Can I add liquid nitrogen to ice cream? And can I add CBD to espresso drinks? All those questions in our mind are the same, and we handle them the same as far as whether that ingredient they're asking about, activated charcoal or CBD, is that generally recognized as safe. At the federal level, CBD is not recognized as a safe food additive, meaning it can't be added to espresso drinks, retail, can't be added to any kind of food in retail food establishments. That is not speaking to LCB, Liquor Cannabis Board licensed marijuana retailers. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about retail food safety establishment, retail food establishments only in regards to CBD in Washington State. So we do not allow as an ingredient. Local health departments, when they see, let's say, infused bottled water with CBD, they will stop the sale of that and ask the retailer to either return it or destroy it, whatever one they can do with that product. If they see espresso stand operators adding CBD into drinks, they will have them stop that practice. And it's not allowed to be added to that. And so it's basically one way to look that we like to look at it is CBD is right now closer to a pharmaceutical than a food additive, and pharmaceuticals can't be added to food. So you can't add Sudafed, you can't open up a capsule of Tylenol, add it to a smoothie. That's how we one analogy that we use when we talk about CBD. And so that's in a nutshell where we are here. And the challenge that we have is not all the states. So federally, that's the way it is. And so we go along with the federal law. Some states have decided to change their laws and have allowed CBD. So that does make it a little bit tough when some states will allow CBD products to be sold and some won't. We are hoping that the federal government comes up with some regulations in the next, well, as soon as possible would be nice, but we don't realistically anticipate it for the next year or two. That's what we're waiting for in here. But right now in Washington, we have not said that CBD can be added as an additive to food at retail. But again, other states have. California, for example, has not. Oregon, for example, has. And so it does make it a little difficult. But so far in Washington, since it's not recognized as safe at the federal level, we are not recognizing it as safe to be added to food at the retail level in Washington State. And then so that I'll end with that and then let others speak, and then I'm sure we'll have lots of questions later on.
This is Karen LaCourse. I want to tag on to what Joe Graham had just said. The Department of Agriculture is not necessarily involved at the retail level, but we are involved at the wholesale processing and distribution level. So the same thing with, we have adopted federal regulation as our own, and because it's not legal under the Food and Drug Administration, it's not generally recognized as safe as a food ingredient. Then we at the state level have sent information to our processors, and as we come across a processor who might be adding it or wishing to add it as an ingredient to their processed food that may go out in wholesale distribution, we're documenting and providing technical assistance and education at this time. We're not taking regulatory action, but we are documenting accounts and the distribution in which that company is distributing their food products if we do need to follow up on that at a future time. And we do have a lot of questions regarding products that come into our state with CBD in them now. Joe just indicated that Oregon is a state that does allow it, and we do see products from other states that come in to our state, and interstate commerce is regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. So at our state level, though, we have told our processors, we've provided technical assistance and information that CBD is not allowed as an ingredient in food. And we do have some information on our website that provides that information to the general public as well as processors. We do, as a food safety program, the only time that we recognize it as an ingredient is in the manufacture of the marijuana infused edibles that I introduced myself with at the beginning of this call. Thanks.
This is Jennifer with the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board. So I'm going to talk about three different areas. One is the marijuana side. Because it is part of a marijuana plant or a hemp plant, we do allow CBD to be added to edibles we have our processors, but our processors are different than food. So our processors are the makers finished products for marijuana. So processors can add CBD to their edibles, and the reason for this is because it does go through a stringent testing process before it's even added to our product. So we do allow that, and those are only sold in the regulated market. We do allow, because of the travel cannabis health and AIDS, beauty aids, we do recognize that CBD outside our market could only be sold as topicals and not for ingestion. So our marijuana retailers can sell topical CBDs out of their stores. We don't allow them to sell edibles at this time. That hasn't gone through our processors and has been tested. We do oversee the alcohol side. So moving to the second phase, the alcohol infusion, because the feds do not allow that, we don't allow it. And we sent out a bulletin, a newsletter, probably about 4 or 5 months ago, telling them that we return all product. We don't allow infused alcohol with CBD. And then we know that people are doing it. We do more education. So this is outside any regulated market or the alcohol market. So if a Safeway sells it, we don't actively enforce that. But when asked, we do give the answer that these items are prohibited. They are illegal. There's nothing in state statute that allows this. I know there's a hemp bill, but I don't think Department of Ag is on this. But I don't believe they're allowing edibles or infusion of CBD to anything yet for that. So when it comes to retail, the Safeways or the Bartels selling infused edibles or infused product, again, if it's not a topical, our take is that it is illegal. However, we do not have the manpower to enforce that. So everything's educational as well.
Great. What do all of you see happening in the future with CBD products? Do you see that this is that potentially CBD products will become legal, or I guess more available / legal than they currently are, and what needs to happen in order for our grocery and convenience stores to sell more CBD products?
So this is Joe, Department of Health again. That's a tough question to answer, but I know that the federal government, the FDA, is actively working on this, but it is problematic for them because it is a pharmaceutical. They did approve it for addition to a drug previously, and once that happens, it kind of recategorizes a certain substance. So it's going to take some work on FDA's part to make this federally legal. So that's where we are right now from the retail perspective, is waiting to see where it goes with FDA and their work that they're doing on regulating CBD.
And then, could we also, before the other two chime in, I do want to hear a little bit more about the topicals about the CBD and products, and what is allowed and not allowed.
I'm sorry, do you want us to chime in?
Yes. So chime in on my first question, but then I would like to go back to the Department of Health about the topicals afterwards.
I'm in agreement that we're all waiting for the feds to decide what we do. I know that and like I said, I know Department of Ag, who will oversee the hemp program, they allow hemp seeds to be used as edible and hemp seed products, oil, that's kind of, I don't know if they're on, but so I don't mean to speak for them. However, I think the bill required them to work with the FDA in order to have it as an added edible. So I don't believe that's occurring at this time. So we're all kind of waiting to see what the feds are going to do with that, with the CBD edibles.
This is the Department of Ag, and we do allow some hemp products in food items, and that's the generally recognized as safe, the seeds, the whole seeds, the protein, the dried powder, as well as the oils. But that's hemp, and it's not hemp that is labeled as CBD. CBD, under our program, we have considered it acceptable only in the marijuana edible products, in addition to the THC containing edible products, which is so, and the THC and the CBD are not regulated by us, but by the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board. The Department of Ag is just looking at what is allowed as food ingredients, whether it's food for non-infused marijuana products, whether it's food like that, or as a food ingredient in these marijuana infused edibles. We're just looking at the food ingredients, and as a food ingredient, the CBD is not allowed because it is not allowed by FDA. Only those hemp seeds, whole seeds, the oils, and the powders are accepted as a food ingredient by FDA, as well as us as a state agency.
So I want to talk a little bit about like lotions, oils, and things along those type of products, because a lot of people use the lotions and things like that. So you have the CBD, like just CBD, and then the CBD infused marijuana products. And there is some rules about both of those. And so I was hoping the Department of Health and the LCB can talk a little bit about that.
This is Shelley Rowden from the Department of Health. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about that. Under current statute, there's under RCW 69.50.575, it's that those topicals relate to what's known as a cannabis health and beauty aid. And that a cannabis health and beauty aid is very, it's defined in that statute as a product that is intended for topical application only. And it contains a THC concentration of 0.3% or less, does not cross the blood-brain barrier, which is how a person would get that high from THC, and it's not intended for ingestion by humans or animals. Those products are allowed to be used in, or products that meet that criteria, that specific criteria, are allowed to be used by a healthcare practitioner in their practice. And it's my understanding from working with the Pharmacy Commission that they're talking about whether or not those can be sold within a pharmacy setting. That decision has not been made yet. But as far as CBD products that are purchased from other states that are producing those products, I think it's important to keep in mind that a lot of these products have been seen to contain a higher THC concentration. It's because the manufacturer will purchase a CBD oil or concentrate from some of these manufacturers, and when it's concentrated, that concentrates the THC as well. So the plant is being, the hemp production or hemp plant is being harvested and sold, and then other manufacturers that purchase that may do an extraction method that could potentially concentrate the THC. So there are people that I've experienced some people that have used some of those topicals, and then they would test themselves 3 days later and would not pass a THC test. So I think it's just important to keep that in mind. But as far as regulation for those cannabis health and beauty aids, that would not fall under the jurisdiction of the Department of Health or unless it's being sold within a licensed marijuana retail store, and Jennifer can add on to that, it's my understanding that it wouldn't fall under the jurisdiction of the LCB to enforce those products either.
Yeah, thank you. Shelley, so and she said a lot about that. We did not write any rule because we don't have rule authority for this. So when we look at the health and beauty aids, if it involves one of our liquor stores, we may go take, if we get complaints, we handle complaints. We may go take samples of that and have it tested to see if it's above the 0.3% of THC concentrate. Other than that, we leave these to local police departments to deal with because we just didn't get any manpower for this. And so there's no, we can't go chasing this stuff. So yeah, I think we really rely on the local police departments to do that.
So with enforcement of all the different CBD products, is this something that the agencies / police departments are enforcing at this point, or is it kind of more you're trying to get all your ducks in a row and then you envision enforcement within the next year or two?
So as far as the Liquor Cannabis Board goes, we're not doing a lot of enforcement with this. We really heavily rely on the locals. Again, it comes down to manpower. If we get a complaint, I know I just repeated myself, but if we get a complaint, we might deal with it, but this is not something we're actively searching. I don't see this unless they put this on the board, the Liquor Cannabis Board to regulate. Then we're going to be asking for staff, and then there'll be a huge educational effort. So this really isn't a lot of what we're dealing with at this point in time.
And this is Joe, the Department of Health. And from our standpoint, the local health departments are not out seeking these products, but during their routine inspections, if they see these products either being sold, CBD containing products, and right now most of the CBD containing foods that we're seeing, we did recently see candy, but mostly we're seeing beverages and also CBD being added to coffee drinks. Those are the most common things that are being seen. And when they see those, they are stopping the sale of those products, but they're not actively going out and searching for CBD containing products, but they are stopping them. And I guess keep in mind from the public health standpoint, the reason that we're concerned is this is not inspected or regulated. It's not like a typical food additive that gets oversight by the FDA or even another state. These CBD products are being manufactured without the benefit of any kind of regulatory oversight. So sometimes they have zero CBD, sometimes they have more than they should, sometimes they have THC in them, sometimes they have harmful substances in them because they have not been inspected or regulated. So that's something as a public health standpoint just to keep in mind, and our LCB representative there, mentioned manpower. So again, we are not going out and doing stings on this stuff and going out and setting up roadblocks and stopping it from coming into the state. But when it's found at the retail level, the local health department staff are removing it from sale.
And this is Karen with the Washington State Department of Ag. As a regulatory agency, we're documenting when we do come across the ingredient being used by one of our food processors or that's being distributed through one of the warehouse facilities. We're not following up like Joe Graham had indicated. We're not stopping the sale of this, but we are indicating, writing on an inspection report that this is taking place. We're documenting the accounts that the company has where their products are being distributed, and we've provided template letters to all of our processors and warehouses indicating that this is not a legal food ingredient, but we're not stopping the sale of it, but we're documenting where it's going, we're documenting who is doing it and the products that it's going into. But you're right, we're not doing a sting operation, we're not setting up roadblocks, but we're documenting who is dealing with this, where it's coming from, and the products that it's going into and where it's being distributed.
So one last question from me before I open up questions for our WFIA members. What are your recommendations to our retail stores and to our distributors about CBD? So is this something that you would maybe recommend that you don't sell at this point, or kind of thing, what do you think?
This is Joe with the State Department of Health again. And as I've mentioned previously, our local health department staff, when they see these products, are having them removed from sale. So my recommendation is, because it's not a regulated product, and because there's no agency federally or at the state or local level who are vouching for the safety of these products, we highly recommend that they are not sold at retail. And again, if they are and they are found, they will be removed from sale.
I agree with Joe. This is Jennifer. I agree with Joe. We cannot endorse this if it's illegal. So we tell people that it is an illegal product. We would advise you to move it or don't use it.
And this is Karen with the state. We are also advising in writing and on inspection reports and in investigations that it's not illegal. It's not a legal ingredient to be used in food manufacturing.
Thank you. So I'm going to open up the questions and see if sorry, I think that kind of got cut off. So I'm just opening up the questions to interim members. If you have any questions, please go ahead and feel free to say them or write them so Rebecca can say the question.
That's what I gathered out of it. Now, I don't know if it's just a Portland.
Sorry, this is Rebecca. Just give me a second. I'm having to unmute everyone by hand because
I'm not sure what's going on with it. Anyway, I'm calling
all together.
up my paperback.
And then
inventory, right?
Yeah. You haven't heard anything yet, though.
No, I have.
And then could you potentially mute the people who we have the extra?
Yeah, I muted him.
Thank you.
So hold on, I'm going down the list.
Thank you.
I have two questions. One is, I'm still a little bit unclear about lotions and oils and that sort of thing. Whether and then what about CBD shots? Are they okay or not?
I'm sorry, people must have not heard that I was going to unmute them.
Could we get that last question clarified a little bit more?
Regarding shots, particularly.
So I had two questions. One is, I'm still a little bit unclear about topicals and whether they're okay in a supermarket. And also, what about shots, CBD shots? Are they okay or not?
This is Jennifer. I'm going to take a stab. When I'm looking at the RCW that I believe it was Shelley talked about, it says it does not cross the blood-brain barrier. So I would say that the shots would be illegal because you're injecting it into your arm and stuff. So it's not a question that we have because the rule actually says not intended for ingestion. So that would actually be something I would seek my attorney out for.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Shots in terms of the little shot bottles of CBD product?
I thought you were injecting. I thought you were, yeah. So if you are drinking it, again, that goes beyond, that's an ingestion. So no, if it's something that you're pouring on your hands, I don't know why you would be pouring shots of stuff on your hands, but you could be. That would be allowed if you poured it on your hand and rubbed it in. But if you're shooting it, drinking it, then that would be something that would be prohibited.
CBDs.
So we have a question in the question box, and it says, are sublingual tinctures considered foods? CBD distributors claim a health supplement. And so I'm not sure what those tinctures, how they are taken, if that's something that someone ingests or rubs on their skins. But maybe you know what that question is aiming at.
Yeah, this is Joe with the Department of Health, and right now we are focused on CBD that's in food, and the tincture.
Full-time or full-time or
generally by definition, a tincture is not a food. I know it's ingestible, but as far as the definition of food goes in our retail food code, a tincture, up to this point, we haven't considered it food. That could change, but right now we are focused, and mainly it's mainly because of enforcement strategy and as mentioned earlier, resources. We are really focused on the CBD that's being added to food, and that's definitely directly, clearly under regulation, under our purview, and under the regulation of the health departments. The tinctures are a little more of a gray area. So I'd say I would advise against tinctures again, just because of the fact we don't know where they're coming from, and no one is regulating the manufacture of tinctures. But as far as regulatory goes, most health departments are not going to be removing that from sale. We're not considering that food at this time because, again, it's a kind of a gray area, and we don't have necessarily enforcement ability to go through and find all these tinctures, because they're very common, as you all well know on this call. And right now we're focused on just the CBD that's added to food directly.
So are tinctures the same as CBD oil? Or is it kind of like, are they like married? Like, you know, like, so obviously they're not, but kind of.
Go ahead. No.
I mean, they're different products, but I mean, maybe there's some, I think, oils, you know, the tinctures, I do believe, probably are being used as more of a shot kind of a thing, as mentioned earlier, not an injection, but I mean, you know, someone just drinking it directly from the bottle. And I think the oils, sometimes people are cooking with it. They may rub the oil on their skin. The oils are used a little differently, but I mean, they're probably in a similar category as far as what they are, or what they're used for. How they're used is a little bit different, perhaps, but they're similar. They're a similar product, not the same product.
Okay.
And don't forget, I do want to reiterate too that was mentioned earlier, so we're all clear. Hemp seed and hemp seed oil, which generally in my experience does not contain CBD, but hemp seed and hemp seed oil are federally allowed. So those are recognized as safe. So when we're talking about bread that contains hemp seed or hemp seed oil, those are allowed under federal law, and we are allowing the sale of those in Washington. Just to make sure we're clear on that, because there's some confusion about that as well.
Yeah.
So this is Karen with the Food Safety, Washington State Department of Ag. Tinctures and capsules and lozenges and so on are inspected by us as a marijuana infused edible in conjunction with the Liquor and Cannabis Board. So THC and or CBD ingredients we have seen those in our regulated tincture and capsule and lozenges products that are inspected and enforced under the marijuana infused edible regulation. The Department of Agriculture also does, as we find them, we have licensed and inspected tincture processors to some extent in conjunction with the Food and Drug Administration, kind of as a dietary supplement. So we do have some of those non-CBD ingredient type tinctures and so on in the food world as a food product or maybe a dietary supplement product, but not in the food world with CBD or THC. We only regulate it and inspect it and review labeling on marijuana infused edible processors with tinctures, lozenges, capsules.
And if you, again, I keep referring, because it really is the only thing that we have is the RCW 6950-575 that says the CBD is not intended for ingestion. So if you're using the tinctures to ingest, usually they put them on their tongue or something, that would mean that would be prohibited per the RCW.
Are there any other questions?
So I had to mute several people because I think, but I'm gonna unmute everyone again, see if there are any.
Any last questions, and then just mute everyone. Thank you.
Okay, everyone's unmuted. So, any last questions?
Have the process of, are they in process of
I guess not.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for attending. We really appreciate it. This was very informative, and I really hope that to our agencies that were involved today, that if we have any more questions, that we can contact you with questions as they come up. But thank you for attending, and I hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.